Administrator for Operations, Steve Sievers, Assistant Administrator for Human Resources, Suzanne Parker, and our Administrative Assistant, Molly Moorfield, who is recording the meeting and will be taking minutes. At this point, I would like to turn the meeting over to Trustee Chair Josh Girth.
Thank you, Vicki. Good to see everybody. At this time, I move to retire to executive session to consider the purchase of property as permitted by the Ohio Revised Code and to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment as permitted by the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
See you in a little bit.
So at this point, folks that are joining in, we'll be reconvening the meeting at 5:30 p.m. You're certainly welcome to stay on the line with us or to click back in here before 5:30 when the regular session will begin.
I'll text you when the meeting's closed. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Good evening, everyone. This is Paul Drury. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director for Anderson Township. If you are on the call or on your phone or on the computer, this is the Township Board of Zoning. It's not the Board of Zoning, it's the Board of Township Trustees meeting for Thursday, February 18th. The board's currently in executive session and they will resume their meeting around 5:30. So we do ask that you mute your phones or your devices if you're not speaking. There will be opportunities for public input, but it does help to keep down on the feedback. So there will be video components and presentations at tonight's meeting. So if you are able to log in via video, you will be able to see the presentations. And again, the board will resume their meeting around 5:30.
Good afternoon and welcome to the February 18th meeting of the Board of Anderson Township Trustees. My name is Vicki Earhart and I serve as the Anderson Township Administrator. Due to the COVID pandemic, this meeting is being convened telephonically. The agenda for today's meeting is available on our website at www.andersontownship.org under the Government tab. The board will be accepting comments from the public during each of our 2 public hearings slated for the beginning of the meeting and also during public forum, which occurs later in the agenda. We ask that all participants mute their computer or their phone if you're joining us by phone, and only unmute if you're speaking. If you choose to address the board during public forum or the public hearings, you will be asked to provide your name and address, and you will also be limited to comments of 3 minutes maximum. Before the meeting begins, the public portion of the meeting begins, I would like to identify the elected officials and staff that are participating in the meeting. We have elected, sorry, I'm getting some feedback. If everyone could mute themselves. Great. Thank you. We do have Trustee Chair Josh Gerth, Trustee Vice Chair Dee Stone, Trustee Andrew Pappas, Fiscal Officer Ken Dietz. And staff that are joining us include our Law Director, Margaret Comey, Assistant Administrator for Operations, Steve Sievers, Assistant Administrator for Human Resources, Suzanne Parker, Planning and Zoning Director, Paul Drury, Hamilton County Sheriff's Lieutenant Dan McElroy, our Fire Chief, Rick Martin, our Public Works Director, Eric Lugenbuehl, Fiscal Office Manager, Debbie Hucker, Planner 2, Sarah Donovan, and also our Administrative Assistant, Molly Moorfield, who is recording this meeting and will be preparing minutes for the board's consideration at a future meeting. Thank you all for joining us. At this time, I will return the meeting to Trustee Chair Josh Gerth.
Thank you, Vicki. Good evening, everybody. I would move to return from executive session.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes. Ken?
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we adopt tonight's agenda, I just want to take a quick second to say again to our colleague, Dee Stone, how sorry we are about the tragedy that your family has suffered. And with that, I'd like to take if you would allow us, just a moment of silence in honor of your son, Mitch. If everybody would please take a moment. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I would like to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yeah.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Tonight we have 2 public hearings. The first one is case 3-2020 Anderson, which is 1357 Nagel Road development. At this time, I would invite Paul to present, and then we will open the hearing for public commentary. Paul? Paul, are you good? You are on mute.
Okay, I was trying to find it. Can everyone see the screen? And can you hear me? Okay, very good. Sorry, when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see how to unmute myself. So tonight's the first public hearing is case 3-2020 Anderson. This is a zone change request for the property located at 1357 Nagel Road. Get my slide to advance here. The applicant is Zika Development Company on behalf of the Township Board of Trustees, who's the property owner. The current zoning is B single family, and the request is a zone change to DD, which is planned multifamily. And this is for the construction of 10 duplex units and 3 single family units for a total of 13 units, a net area of 2.7 acres and a density of 5.66 units per acre. The site has quite the history, but most recently, the Regional Planning Commission heard, well, I should back up. We had an open house in November of 2018 with the immediate neighbors to gain input. The Regional Planning Commission heard this case on December the 3rd of 2020, recommended approval with conditions. And then the Zoning Commission heard the case December the 21st, 2020, also recommended approval with conditions. The public hearing was scheduled before the trustees in January, but the applicant and staff requested additional time to meet with the neighbors to discuss some changes to some of the conditions that were recommended by the Zoning Commission, which we'll discuss. The site is outlined in red. Again, it has frontage on Nagel and it's just south of Stonegate Drive. The current zoning again is B. The property to the north is zone DD, multifamily, as well as to the west, to the east is zone single family, and then to the south, there are mixtures of zoning from single family to office. This is an aerial of the site in question. As you can see, the front part of the site is primarily a lawn area, and the rear of the site or toward the west is a wooded area. This is the future land use plan from our comprehensive, our future land use map from our 2016 comprehensive plan. It identified the property as institutional uses, and this was because at the time, and still is, owned by the township. These are the site photos from Nagel looking west to the site. This is looking north towards Stonegate, and then the forefront of the picture is one of the large oak trees that will be mentioned later in the staff report, as well as the mound that separates this site from single-family homes on Stonegate Drive with the evergreen trees. This is looking south toward Beachmont with a view of the other large oak tree that's mentioned later on. This is looking north along Nagel, looking west again toward the site, the mound with the evergreen trees. This is looking west toward the new Stonegate apartments that were recently constructed and opened in December. This is looking south, southeast toward the adjacent single-family residence. And this is the preliminary development plan that has been presented. Again, there is a private drive located directly across from Pine Terrace. There is a mixture of duplex units as well as single-family units. All have garages. There is also a detention area located in the southwestern portion of the site. A sidewalk along the southern portion of the private drive that would connect the residences to the sidewalk on Nagel. This is the landscaping plan. It's a little light, and I apologize, but it does identify a mixture of evergreens and landscaping along the northern property line, as well as screening their parking area to the residents to the south, in addition to other landscaping within the development. And these are the front and rear elevations of the proposed of a duplex, with the single family homes will look very similar. And these are the side elevations. This was an elevation, typical view if you were in the backyard of the homes on Stonegate. So this would be their view to the proposed development. And this was a site section, again, looking east to west, showing the location of the mound as it compares to the existing homes on Stonegate and the proposed homes with this zone change. The mound was discussed at the zoning commission and has been a topic of interest. There was an agreement when the township transferred property to Stonegate to install a mound on this property line to buffer for future development on the township property. The mound itself wasn't actually constructed on the property line. It was on the western portion of the site, but as it gets closer to Nagel, it veers off the property line. So this was a site section showing where the proposed mound could go at a lower height. The current mound is fairly high and wide. So in order to construct the new homes, the mound would need to be lowered some, regraded to allow for the patios on the backs of the new homes. And we can come back to that if we need to. So the project is in compliance with zoning requirements, except for these items that were mentioned in the staff report. Sidewalk, there needs to be a sidewalk on the frontage of Nagel, wheel stops and curbs along the off-street parking areas, lighting plan, and then sign. Seems to be additional feedback.
Excuse me, if everyone could please mute themselves. Thank you very much.
So the zoning commission recommended approval of the zone change from B single family to DD based off the following findings, that it was consistent with the future land use plan. The zoning commission felt that this was an appropriate transitional use from office and higher density multifamily from the west and to the south to single family to the north and to the east. Felt that it stabilized the neighborhood by promoting transitional sizing and development. The health of the neighborhood and township are maintained. It provides an opportunity for a reasonable profit. These were recommended conditions from regional planning as well as the zoning commission. Number one, the landscaping plan be submitted during the final development plan. Number two, that a lighting plan be submitted as well. Same with number three, a signage plan. Number four, that sidewalks be provided along the frontage of Nagel, as well as there is one proposed within the interior of this site. That guest parking spaces be revised to provide a 10-foot minimum buffer from the adjacent residential property. And in the original hearings, there were off-street parking spaces located near Nagel, which have been removed. Number six, the landscape buffer, including the existing mound, will be provided along the northern property line, incorporated into the landscaping plan. The existing tree stand shall be preserved as much as possible, and the applicant shall document and writing plans to do so. The mound on the northern property line with evergreens shall be fenced during construction as not to disrupt the existing trees. This particular condition, at the time of the zoning commission hearings, the plan that was presented did not accurately represent where the mound was located. So this condition from the zoning commission was based off of the plan that they reviewed. Since that time, the applicant has staked the property line and has determined that the mound does not follow the property line. And the applicant met with the neighbors after the zoning commission meeting to present their plan of potentially removing the mound, replacing it with a lower mound, and also, if possible, trying to preserve the trees that are there or relocate them, or if they were not able to be saved, to replant trees on a new lower mound. So that is a condition that the trustees may consider revising based off of the new information that's been provided by the applicant. Number seven, the zoning commission recommended preserving and saving the two large oak trees that are near Nagel, which I pointed out during in the photos. And this is something that the applicant has agreed to and has modified their plan accordingly. The number 8 refers to parking lot, parking space dimensions. And then the zoning commission also requested a condition that brick and stone features be added to all elevations of the units, not just the front elevations. And this would be something that would be submitted during the final development plan. Zoning commission also recommended removing the 5 off-street parking spaces that were closest to Nagel, and I say off-street, off the private drive, and the applicant has done that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Paul, is on this plan, it doesn't show, on this private drive, is there street parking allowed on that or no?
It is not allowed. It's not wide enough for on the street parking on that private drive. So there are driveways and then there are off-street parking spaces that are provided.
When you, this is Dee, when you talk about the mound not going along the property line, like what exactly do you mean by that? Like
So this mound in this picture that has the evergreen trees, the agreement with the township and Mayerson when there was a transfer of property was that this mound be installed along the property line that's shared between, at the time it was the Mayerson company and the township.
right.
So the mound was not installed along the property line. In this particular photo to the left, the mound is on the property line, but as it extends toward Nagel, it veers to the south. So it is more on township property than it is on the Stonegate properties. In order for the Zika to construct the homes that they are proposing, because of the width of the lot in this particular location, the mound needs to be moved to the property line or reduced in size. Currently, it's about 3 feet tall and extends in both directions substantially. So in order for them to build patios in this area for the back of those homes, the mound needs to be removed and lowered or at least moved back to the property line.
Okay.
Not sure if we have a better picture of it. This is the area though that's not on the property line.
Right. Okay.
This photo also shows the evergreen trees that are not on the property line.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Paul, I think the developer is also on the line. I don't know, does he or she, do they have something they'd like to add, or should we? Public comment?
Yes, now would be the time for them to present.
Okay.
Sorry about that. My name's Ed Ferrugia. I'm here with Joe Ferrugia. We're here on behalf of Zika Development Company. Our address is 7861 East Kemper Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45249. As Paul said, we're with the conditions that were put on the approval at our last meeting. As he mentioned, the one thing that we can't really live with is the number 6, where it talks about the mound that's on the north property line. Initially, when we looked at the site, we thought, as Paul stated, I think everybody thought that was kind of split between the two, our property and the Stonegate Lane properties. But after surveying it, it is, for the most part, if not all, it is on the south property, the township property that this application pertains to. And that being said, yeah, I mean, he's correct. We wouldn't be able to, without getting into that mound, we wouldn't be able to construct the buildings. That being said, knowing that we'd have to get into that mound, we have submitted a landscape plan, showing that we are going to show buffer. We could put some type of mound in place of where we get, if we have to take the whole thing out, we would put a mound back in. Given the distance between the back of the buildings and the property line, probably it wouldn't be able to get as high as it is right now. We would landscape it. And we show it on the landscaping plan. That's really the one thing on the conditions that from our last meeting that stands out to us. And the other stuff that's totally fine. I think we've removed the parking spaces that they asked about. And yeah, I mean, everything else we're okay with. That is, not being able to touch that mound is a major issue for us.
Okay, Dee, Andrew, if you guys have any other questions, we'll move into the public portion of this meeting. So at this time, if anybody would like to speak regarding this proposed development, you may do so. And if you are not speaking, please remember to mute your line.
Yeah, this is Mike Ewell. I live at 8017 Stonegate Drive. I'm one of the HOA houses on the north side, the second from the left. We met last time. The big issue, as has already been brought up, is the mound and the privacy that gives us from any development to our south. When we moved in, and we understood that was part of the HOA land that we have, we found out obviously now that it's not, at least most of it is not. So whatever possible, we need to maintain that. I understand the constrictions you have in order to get those lots in. If there's any way to move those further south to maintain more of that mound, we would certainly appreciate it. Possibly taking that sidewalk out. Is that really necessary? We don't have a sidewalk in our area when we on our HOA, which is not an issue. And the other issue was that when we discussed it last time, is that the far west end of that mound, the belief at that time was, when we discussed this with the developer, that at least a portion of that would not have to be removed, could stay the way that it is with the trees that are there. And then the other question I had was on the elevation that showed the back of the new development that we would see. Those evergreen trees, were those the same size of trees that are in now? Were those replanted trees, or were those replacement trees? Because that would make a difference in what we would see on the end, on the back of our, from the back of our properties.
So first of all, the trees that are on the plan, they'd be 10 to 12 feet high. The evergreens typically grow between, or take 8 inches a year. But that would be the plan. And you are correct about that western side of the mound. Pretty much when you get essentially to where the street tees, you know, if you take that mound from where the street tees west, we wouldn't need to get into the mound over there. It's really behind the first 5 units on the right-hand side when you come in. And the mound, and we talked about this last time, you know, the mound is beneficial to the homeowners on Stonegate as it is to the homeowners that would be in this development. I mean, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants privacy. We understand that. Yeah, we would do the best we could to just, you know, disturb that minimally.
From my understanding, as you said before, if all possible, you're going to maintain those trees that are there by moving them. How practical that is, I don't know if they would be able to survive that move or not. But the elevation, again, that you were showing were with trees that you replant, new trees, not that size of tree that we have there now. Is that correct?
It'd be about 10 to 12 feet. I'm not sure what the height is of the trees out there right now.
They're more than that, much more than that.
So yeah, I mean, typically when we plant trees in a, you know, when at the entrance of a neighborhood, you know, typically you see 6 to 8 foot trees. So these would be substantially larger than that, than the normal, just because we do want to preserve that buffer. And you are correct. You know, if we can, we've done it in the past where we've actually taken a tree and moved it. We would try that in this scenario as well, because obviously, yeah, I mean, those trees are mature. We want to keep those if we can, obviously.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? You're welcome to speak at this time. And I know sometimes we have some audio issues. So if anybody has trouble muting or for some reason cannot connect, please call this number. You can certainly try and log out and reconnect. That sometimes helps. But if you are still having trouble, call 513-688-8604, 688-8604. Thanks, Mike. Anybody else that would like to speak, please do so at this time. We'll give it a minute. While we're waiting to see if anyone else, there was a question about the sidewalks, and I think it's an interesting question. What is the deal with do we need sidewalks? Is it a developer need? I mean, I think everybody likes having sidewalks, but is that, maybe Paul, could you give just a little history there?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Josh. Yeah, because where are those sidewalks? It's not the main sidewalk along Naval we're talking about, right?
No, if you look at the site plan, they're on there.
Yeah.
So there's currently a sidewalk to about this vicinity. So a sidewalk would be required to extend to the end of their property. There is a sidewalk in front of Sea of Smiles. So ultimately, there is a break at the Morgan property, and I don't know if there's enough right of way to extend the sidewalk across the Morgan property. But ultimately, there is planned a sidewalk from all the way south to Beachmont Avenue. So they are proposing a sidewalk on the interior of their site, and then they would be required to at least install a sidewalk along their frontage on Nagle Road.
Yeah, the frontage I understand,
Yeah.
but and I know that's being done outside of the Nagle development now, or the Stonegate development. The interior sidewalk, is that a requirement from us? Is that a wish, or that's something that
They are proposing a sidewalk on the interior, at least on one side of the private drive, and that's sufficient.
Yeah. Ed or Joe, do you think that is that an attractive, is that an amenity? I mean, if you didn't have to build it, obviously you'd save some money, I guess, but is that, you think, something that's critical for your development?
Yeah, this is a private drive. There's only 13 units here. I don't,
Right.
Half the people are probably going to walk in the street or on the driveway. So it's kind of a toss up. I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay. Well, on this, but yeah, I mean, if it's something that maybe perhaps you can discuss with Paul, our Paul Drury, a little bit further. I mean, if it's something that helps alleviate some of the setback or whatever, maybe continue that discussion.
Okay, definitely.
I agree with that, Josh. I was thinking the same thing. I mean, for 13 houses, are there sidewalks that necessary? And will it alleviate some of the situation of the buffer? So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get through the public comments. Are there any more public comments? Give it 30 seconds.
Yeah, I had a quick question. I apologize. I just got to the meeting. I just noted on the drawing, if it's been addressed, is there a power line that looks like it's running under the, I guess that'd be the south of the large oak trees? The
No.
line just wasn't on the map I got in the mail, and I was wondering if that's what it was.
No, there's a heavy line. That's the proposed 8-inch sanitary sewer that's on the south line. Everything, there's no overhead wires of any kind on this property. Everything is underground.
So, and if it's been addressed, again, my apologies, would that sewage or that line interfere with the root system then, if it's kind of within 10 feet of that tree?
He's got it right on the edge of the drip line of that tree.
Okay.
And we've talked about that. If there's a way that we can jockey that sewer a little further to the south, we will do that. We do have to have the sewer in an easement. I can't remember the width. I think it's 20 feet wide. And we can offset it in that 20 feet. So it could be like 5 and 15. But, we have had that discussion.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
If I could, Mr. Kavner, for the record, could you please identify yourself and your address so we can make sure?
Yes, it's Chris Kepner, 8132 Pine Terrace Drive.
Thank you.
Okay, unless anyone else has any comments, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this meeting. Dee, Andrew, any other questions that you have?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment on the oak trees that were just being discussed. I'm very glad they're still, that we're making effort to keep them and keep them safe. So we're all about our trees here. So I'm glad that that was one of the things that the zoning commission discussed and put in here. So thank you.
Andrew, anything else?
No, I that comment as a tree committee member. We are concerned with large trees, and I'm glad that the developer is showing concern for the drip line and working around that to protect the tree. And I do appreciate Mr. Kepner's concern about it. As far as the design, I got to tell you, I've heard from a lot of residents expressing interest in exactly this type of housing option in Anderson, and I'm happy to see it. The empty nester open concept coming to a very important part of the township. So I'm nice to see a developer being responsive to the community's needs and also their concerns. And that's my comment.
Great. Well, with that, this is a decision-making meeting, so I'm going to make a motion to approve and adopt a zone change from B residence to DD planned multiple family residence for the property located at 1357 Nagel Road.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to the developer for being on. Yeah, as Andrew said, this is a great product for our township. So looking forward to it.
Just for clarification real quick on condition number 6. Do you want to modify this condition based off of new information that was provided by the applicant?
Well, as soon as I can expand it, they're going to have to read it.
What are you referring to actually, Paul?
So
and all that too, is that part of this number 6?
I think the zoning commission felt that the existing mound and the existing trees preserved in their existing or in their current condition shall be preserved. I guess it does say as much as possible, and the applicant. So if you're comfortable with the applicant providing the landscaping plan to be addressed by the zoning commission during the final development plan, I guess that it would be fine as written.
Yeah, I think
that as much as possible.
And I think that that's a process that you normally do anyway. So
okay.
Based on that, the discussion from the applicant as well as the idea of whether or not that sidewalk's necessary, yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable moving forward with
Okay.
if Andrew and Dee.
Okay. The zoning commission can address it during the final development plan. Then.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
That works. Thanks. Dee, turn it over to you.
Mrs. Donovan is going to present the next case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just so I can make sure that you all can hear me. The next case in front of you all tonight is case 2-2018 Anderson substantial modification. It's being presented by Mark A. Rosenberger on behalf of Bear Becker, on behalf of Metropolitan Holdings, which is on behalf of Woodstone IV Holdings, Skytop LLC, which is the property owner. The site's located at 5218 Beachmont Avenue, at Book 500, page 430, parcel 207, and it's currently zoned EE, planned retail business. The applicant is requesting a substantial modification to the approved zone change to EE, planned retail, per the trustee resolution number 18062102.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Actually, I will be opening this up. Trustee Girth is recusing himself from this discussion, so I'll be leading this part of the discussion on this. So we'll open this up for public hearing. Are you ready to just go ahead and present the whole thing?
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so they're proposing to demolish the existing 1,200 and 1,760 square feet structure that's currently there. It's the retail shopping center, and to construct a one four-story structure, which is approximately 363,292 square feet, which will include 361 residential units, which is broken down into 259 one-bedroom apartments, 93 two-bedroom apartments, and 9 three-bedroom apartments at a density of 29 units per acre. The structure, as I stated before, will be 4 stories with a mezzanine floor above the 4th floor, but a maximum height of 67 feet tall. The structure will include 2 interior courtyards as well as building amenities. This proposal is a modification from the approved plan for 9 three-story residential buildings, which were all at a height of 37 feet 6 inches tall with 246 units. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So the proposal also includes 627 parking spaces, where 593 parking spaces are required per our zoning resolution of Article 5.3E, in compliant with the excess of optimal number of parking spaces. 60 of these parking spaces will be covered stalls and 5 garage buildings. The existing stormwater is proposed to remain, and the existing impervious surface ratio is being reduced from that shopping center building at 66% ISR to 64% ISR. This is a change in the proposal that was approved back in 2018, which it is now the proposed development's an 8% increase from that approved development. So the 2 existing outlot commercial buildings will remain unaffected. The 3rd proposed outlot building is being reduced by about 300 square feet, and the combined 117 parking spaces will remain. So we held an open house, or I'm sorry. This property, as you all know, has a long-standing history for it. So based off of the zoning commission hearing the case on December 21st, 2020, They requested a continuation for additional information, including information on a pedestrian connection between the proposed trailhead and the commercial outlot buildings, as well as the required 10% interior landscaping to be in accordance with Anderson Township zoning resolution, which is now being proposed. They requested signage revisions to be submitted, which the applicant is not proposing any modifications and are still requesting a variance to the existing sign. They requested additional information for the HVAC units to be screened from the right-of-way. And they provided details on the location of HVAC as well as the screening units in their sound. The zoning commission requested information on the ODOT scope, which the applicant submitted a scope for zoning commission review, as well as additional information yesterday in terms of the scope of their traffic impact study. And then the last thing that the zoning commission requested in their continuation was that the parking area drive aisle widths be reconsidered with a potentially different parking layout. And the applicant modified their plan to include 22-foot wide interior drive aisles. That would be for two-way traffic where 24 feet drive aisles are required, and 9x18 parking spaces where 9x19 is required. So on January 25th, 2021, the Anderson Township Zoning Commission heard case to 2018 Anderson substantial modification and recommended approval with the conditions from staff recommended denial for the variance of 5.5 G1, which is a request to keep the existing freestanding sign. So this is the map from Cages showing the property lines. This is our zoning map, which shows the EE planned retail district. This is the aerial of the site. The topography map of the site. And this is our future land use map of the site that shows that it was planned for mixed retail. This is a photo of the existing shopping center, definitely before all of the snow happened, but this is looking from Beachmont Avenue at the existing shopping center. The current parking lot of the Skytop Shopping Center. The rear of the site showing the slope of the hillside as well as the backside of the shopping center. The existing detention basin, which is proposed to remain. This is from the parking spaces at the commercial outlot building looking at UDF across Beachmont Avenue. This is again the rear of this shopping center. This is looking at Clough Creek. Again, the hillside behind the shopping center. This is looking from the parking lot at the shopping center towards the homes on Signal Hill. Again, another photo of the hillside behind. This is the closest home on Signal Hill. This is looking from Signal Hill Drive down towards the shopping center. This is a photo of the existing sign as well as its proximity to Beachmont Avenue. And this is looking from the site towards the Western Drive, exiting onto Beachmont Avenue. This site plan is the latest submitted site plan from the applicant. It includes those 22 feet drive aisles that we discussed, as well as angled parking that has been modified. The next one is an illustrative site plan that shows landscaping as well as those narrower drive aisles. This is their landscaping plan. This is an example of a floor plan. We just included one of them. These are the exterior elevations. So this is the site section, which is showing the distance from the homes on Signal Hill to the proposed building in comparison of the height. So on this site section, I know it's really small, but they did include examples of where the AC units will be and their height visible from Signal Hill, as well as one of the garage structures to the right of the building. This is a site rendering. So as mentioned before, the Zoning Commission did recommend approval of all of the variances except for the freestanding sign. So the site is in compliance with the zoning resolution with the exception of these items. So the first one is Article 3.15 D1, which is for height. The second is Article 3.15 F5, which is no parking area shall be located within 20 feet of a side lot line of a residential lot. Article 5.27, which states that accessory buildings shall be located in the rear yard. In continuing, Article 5.3 D3A, which is a minimum drive aisle shall be 24 feet and a minimum parking stall length shall be 19 feet. Article 5.3 D9 for additional bicycle parking spaces. Article 5.3 L5B, which is parking areas adjacent to a side or rear lot line of a residential district or property devoted to residential use, shall include a minimum of one evergreen or shade tree per 30 linear feet of parking surfaces. As mentioned before, the Zoning Commission recommended denial of the variance request to allow the existing freestanding sign. The sign was granted originally through Case 6, 1999 BZA for a height of 30 feet 3 inches and 187.5 square feet. And the maximum allowed in the E or EE zoning district is 15 feet with 100 surface feet or square feet for the signage. The Zoning Commission was under the impression that there were potentials for the sign to come into compliance and agreed that the variance was substantial. And these are the standards to be considered for all variances. I would be happy to answer any questions. I know that the applicant is also on the call as well.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, does the applicant have anything to add to any of that?
Yes, I'd like to add a few things. My name for the record is Andrew Wapner, and my address is 1433 Grandview Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43212. First, I want to clarify, Sarah mentioned that the zoning is proposing a reduction in retail square footage for what we call parcel 3, which is in the south corner. I think that's a misunderstanding. We're not proposing to reduce the square feet that it's zoned at. It's just a discrepancy between what it's zoned at and what the building was drawn at, which is a little bit less than what it was zoned for. So we're not proposing any change to that. I did prepare, if I can share, I think I can share my screen. So Laura did a good job explaining most of the project, so I will spare everybody going through the same drawings again. If anyone has any questions, I can answer specific questions. The one variance that we were recommended against getting was the sign, and we've since prepared an exhibit of how we may alter the existing sign. We're proposing to remove the green triangle at the top. We would repaint the sign. We'd do some new colors that match the colors of the building once we decide what those are. But we'd overall like to keep the sign. We feel that it's set back fairly far from the right of way. Zoning allows it to be on the right of way, and I believe it's around 20 feet away. The sign also helps mark that entrance, which is a signalized entrance. ODOT has expressed that they would prefer that residents and commercial users use the signalized entrance, and so we feel that the taller sign helps mark that as an entrance. It's also the more sustainable option to keep and reuse what is there as much as we can, as opposed to demolishing most of the sign to get rid of it. So we wanted to prepare an image of what the sign might look like as we modify it and improve it. Other than that, I did want to clarify, there was a lot of discussion in the earlier meetings about our AC units on the rooftop. We did this site section to help illustrate that. Some of the residents had requested screening on top of the roof, and when we looked into it, the screening on the top of the roof to screen those units from residents who live far above, we're going to have to be 15 feet or even taller for the highest house high, which would essentially be adding a floor to the building. And after that was brought to the attention of the zoning commission, they agreed that screening of those units would not be necessary. So I just want to clarify on that point. But if the trustees have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we will open it up for public comments. Please remember to keep your comments to 3 minutes and introduce yourself and with your name and address. And if anyone is having trouble, cannot unmute themselves, please contact us at 688-8604. That's 513-688-8604. Or you can try to log out, hang up, and reconnect. So, but if you want to comment and you're having trouble unmuting yourself, please call that number. And unfortunately, I can't see galley view, or gallery, I guess it is. So if anybody can tell me if someone has their hand raised or something, I would appreciate it.
Hi, this is Tony Giglio. I'm at 5073 Signal Hill Lane. I just wanted to comment as someone who is directly impacted by this project. My house sits directly to the north of where this proposed building is going. Had a lot of kind of interesting comments from the neighborhood. I know that the Signal Hill Homeowners Association, of which I am a member of, is opposed to this. That being said, building height is certainly something that is of big concern. I'm not sure why the zoning commission allowed a 67-foot building to be built. There's a number of reasons why that shouldn't happen that have probably been discussed already, so I'm not going to rehash those. I think the true test of this is this project good for the neighborhood? Is it good for the township? Is there something better out there? And is this the best we can do? And I think if you apply those three items, while this project may be good for the community and good for the township, I absolutely think that there's something better out there that can be done with this property physically, meaning that a 67-foot tall building is certainly not better. And I think there's definitely a situation out there where the best use of this property is likely to be an apartment building, but it's not best for at least the folks in Signal Hill that this is allowed to be as tall as it is and as dense as it is. There are members on this Board of Trustees who are very pro-development. We've seen that again and again. I don't think that's going to change the minds of those folks on this board who are pro-development. That being said, there is no going back. If you approve this project and it all of a sudden creates issues for those of us on Signal Hill, it cannot be undone. So I would just ask that you take that into consideration when making your decision, and to not forget about those of us that want to have our quiet enjoyment who live on Signal Hill Lane. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments? Steve, is anyone calling in? Steve Severs?
Thank you, Ms. Stone. I'm not received any calls. I'm not seeing any comments in the chat area either, but perhaps we can go another 30 seconds or so here to see if.
Fine.
While we wait on that, I have a question of the applicant, if I may. Looking at the site plan and looking at the design, I did drive the parcel today just before our meeting, after just to get a refresher on it. And my only comment would be, is there any way, looking at the design of, it looks like in the corners of the units of the structure, and I'm specifically concerned about the north, that would be the north east corner, the two-story portion of your design up at the top. It just seems like, can that, in somehow, that one portion of it seems to be within eyesight of some of the homes up above there. And I was wondering, or would you be open to perhaps moving that just one corner of the two-story partial, the two-story portion of your unit to just another part of the development without, wouldn't detract from the number at all? Just, I would just think that would be one less story looking right at the eyesight of, or not necessarily eyesight, but definitely within view of the house or two that are above there. That's my only question regarding the design of the unit. I will say this, what we were presented with initially, this is a substantially, in my opinion, a much improved design. And I was concerned today, I did see some dumping going on behind the shopping center there that is now empty and derelict. And I am concerned about that becoming more of a problem. So seeing something, some redevelopment of this property is I think is a good thing overall for the community. Can you address that for me, or would you be open to that, at least an idea?
Yes, I think I just requested to share my screen again. So to clarify, you're speaking of this corner up here. If you can
That
see
corner
it.
right there, yes, I am. I see your hand. And that one corner looks like it's probably the closest to the house, the two houses that are within eyesight right above the development.
Right. And so our site section that we've done, if I can find that, this house right here is the house directly north. So this is our building. This is the house directly to the north, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This volume right here is the height of the 2-story space. So as you can see, it's still well below the floor level in the backyard of that house that's directly behind us. So I mean, we prefer to keep that if we can, and we feel it balances the elevation and creates some symmetry for the building, and that it would look quite awkward if we chop that off in that corner.
So is there any other public comment before we go on to trustee comment? Okay. Andrew, do you have any other questions? And I think Andrew brings up a good point. I've been down to the site too, not this week, but recently. It's that extra tower that is kind of, impeding someone's view. I mean, if that tower, then, I mean, that's what makes it 67 feet. What's the size of the rest of the,
Sure.
It's 45 feet, right?
Yeah, everything that's in white in this drawing is 45 feet.
Correct.
What's in orange is 67 feet. But even the 67 feet, if you look here, our building elevation is around 520 feet. The elevation of this house up here is at 630 feet. So they're 110 feet above.
I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying, but I also think that, not having that extra tower, particularly on that corner, and I know that design-wise, it's going to be a little off, and I don't know, but I think that could go a long way into at least alleviating some of the concern of the people behind the apartment structure. Andrew, do you have anything to add to that?
I understand his comment, and the change in elevation is substantial there. It's 100 and something feet. I was just saying, if there's a way, would the developer be open to, I mean, that was really the only corner I had any concern with. And I was thinking, if you just rotated it or, moved it off to the, I guess it would be the east elevation more. Yeah, I get architecture, the whole 9 yards. I understand that. But it might help alleviate some of the concerns of the Signal Hill residents, especially those two homes behind there. So that was my only comment is, would you be, amenable to at least looking at somehow redesigning that just one corner of the development? The rest of it, honestly, I don't have any issue with. It's just a question that I had because as I was looking, it doesn't help that this time of year there's virtually no vegetation, everything leafless. But it's something we have to be cognizant of when we're talking about a development like this. That's really my only comment.
Andrew, this is Matt Vicasey. I'm also with Metropolitan Holdings. Maybe, Andrew, you could pull up the elevations so we could look at those. And you could explain a little bit more how the building is articulated. And, the concern is if you take that corner away, it really does, it means we need to study all of those bump ups. And it starts to really affect the entire design of the building itself.
Yeah, and they also are kind of integrated to how the units lay out and everything as well. It really affects a lot of things. You can't just move it from one spot to another. It would have to just be cutting it off, and it's this elevation right here that I've got in the center. I mean, we really prefer to keep it. We feel that it's well below where those residents are, and they're going to look out over top of it either way.
The building will look really funny if we take that corner off. I mean, it'll look like a mistake.
I respect our architectural comments, and I was just asking the question if it was something for me, it's not a make or break issue. I just, trying to balance everybody's concerns here. And I understand, it wasn't part of zoning, so I just bring it up here now. So I've raised it. You've answered the question. That was my job, is to just ask the question, is would you be amenable to it? And the answer is no. And that's fine. That's a position that you're entitled to.
Any other comments? Okay, if there's no other comments, hang on, let me find mine. We do have a resolution to consider. I will close public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. And let me find the resolution here.
I've got it, D. I move to adopt a substantial modification to the approved zone change to EE Planned Retail District per trustee resolution number 18-0621-02.
Second.
Mr. Pappas? Mr. Pappas?
Yes, Ken. Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can turn it back over to Mr. Girth.
Thanks, Dee. At this point of the meeting is when we have our public forum. We decide time every meeting for input from the community. So if anyone has anything they would like to address with this board, they may do so at this time. I've yet to figure out how to do a big clock on the screen, but
I have one question, if I may. Can we clarify what is in the resolution?
We can send you
part of our
a copy of the resolution.
What's that?
Send you a copy of the resolution. Rather long. Does that sound good?
There, if I can say something, this is Paul again. So there were a series of variances that the zoning commission approved, but there was one they recommended denial, which was the freestanding sign. And the applicant's requesting that variance be approved. So I think clarification of is that what you're asking for, Andrew?
Yes, that's correct.
So clarification of what variances are approved and what variance, if the freestanding sign is approved or if it's the variance is still denied.
With regard to the Andrew, do you have any comments on the freestanding sign?
No, I don't per se. I mean, I don't think it's a make or break for the developer at this particular portion of the development. I know that we want to our desire, as Paul helped me here, but I think our desire as a township level is we were trying to bring the height of some of these oversized signs down amongst the township to avoid some clutter. But again, I have no preference one way or the other on the sign, and I don't know that I would go against our zoning the zoning recommendations right now.
So so you recommend that we stick with the zoning commission's denial of that sign variance. Is that what you're saying, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm saying as the resolution was presented to me with the recommendations, I stick by what's in our documents, and it was the denial of the existing sign. I'm sure there's a process that they can appeal that portion of it, but Paul, you could probably speak to that better than I could.
It was a request with the zone change, so no, it's part of the zone change. It would be a complete referendum, I believe. So the zoning commission recommended denial of that particular variance. So if your decision is consistent with that recommendation, then that's what would happen.
Okay. My position is I would like to be consistent with the zoning commission's recommendation.
Yes, I agree with Dee on this. As I said, part of the submission, we reviewed all the, I'm going to stick with what our zoning commission recommends, and that's where I sit on this.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Is that the clarification you needed, sir? I think you're muted.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're turning it back over to Josh.
Okay, with that, we are now in public forum. If anybody wishes to address the board, they may do so at this time. Going once, going twice.
Mr. Girth, this is Steve Severs once again. You may want to announce again if people cannot connect, try to log back out, log in, or dial the number, and we'll make sure we get their minutes or their comments into the minutes. Of course, we're also reachable by phone, email, and every other form of communication during the regular business day. So.
That is true. More ways than one, no doubt. Yeah, the number is 688-8604. If anybody has trouble connecting, they can always reach us there or send emails or any of the other form of communication. I'm not hearing anything on this call or this video, so we will close the public forum section and move into trustee comments. Andrew D., anything to add?
Well, I just want to acknowledge the moment of silence in honor of my son when we started. And I just want to say to the entire township, thank you. It's been a very difficult situation for my family, but we have been very blessed by this township. And this township really comes for, really shines in times like this. And we just feel that. So I just want to acknowledge that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm okay. And Dee, it was honestly, it was nice to see everybody come together, and our thoughts and prayers are still with you and will be with you through this very difficult time. So you know that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have anything to add. So with that, we'll move into the fiscal officer report. Ken Dietz.
Yes, thank you. Just remind everybody, since I don't think anybody's in the building here, we do have purchase orders to be signed. So at your convenience, we will do the folder in our workroom right opposite the fiscal office. And, as you know, we need 2 signatures, so, but we'd like to have all 3 of you come in and sign those. Any questions, you can give me a call. On the agenda, we have financial reports. Obviously, revenues are doing fairly well right now because we're right in the middle of a tax collection, and we have received some advance payments. So the revenues are looking a lot better than they would normally because of the 2 months of a collection almost under our wings. They're above what we had estimated, but that will level out as we go through the rest of the year. The appropriation expenditures are lagging behind simply because we're still trying to process some of the beginning of the year expenditures and trying to clean up some of the encumbrances that we've had from last year. So we will have a better handle on everything in the March regular meeting. And speaking of the March regular meeting, we are going to have to pass a permanent budget, which we're going to be working on. I feel like the administration, the fiscal office, and all the department heads will be spending a lot of time trying to come up with some answers. As you know, the temporary budget that we're working on right now, we did that back in July of last year, and a lot of things have changed since then. The way we can handle some of the monies and some of the expenditures we've had, and especially at the beginning of this year, we've had a week or so of a lot of snow that we're going to have to cover. So those will be changes that will adopt into our permanent budget. And I think you'll find that it's pretty much in line with what we did in 2020, because we were allowed to spend some money out of the TIF funds because of COVID-19 and some of the other emergencies that we had. So with that in mind, we do have some appropriation changes, and they're basically related to the fact that we are allowed to spend some money for public works and some of the expenditures we had out of our TIF fund. Is our Fund 14, which is the revenue producing fund where we pay the school district out of and whatever. But to make the budget easier to handle, we need, one of the changes that came about was the recreation property tax, recreation center property taxes we need to pay this year. And that was not part of the original budget. And one of the increases that we're asking for is in the general fund to pay for the rec center, the property taxes. We need $90,000. It's an expensive building. The others are all related to public works because we are allowed to use the TIF money to pay for that, but we did not have that in our public works budget. And as of right now, we are working on that temporary budget. And in order to make things simple, we'd like to pay our expenses out of that budget, out of 04, which is our public works budget. And then when we get the permanent budget coming out at the end of March, that money will all be switched back to be paid out of the TIF fund. So I don't think you have any of this in front of you, but we would need $140,000 to get through the first couple months of 2021 for employer retirement contribution. We would need an increase of $200,000 in salaries to cover those salaries that we did not have in public works in the temporary budget. We need $62,000 in road repair materials. And then our Medicare expenses are not that much, but they're $9,000. So in order to keep that temporary budget under control and to be able to make payments on those items, I would need your approval to change that temporary budget. And then when we get to the permanent budget in March, those expenses will be transferred back.
With
Okay.
that, I move to adopt the appropriation changes recommended by Fiscal Officer Ken Dietz.
Second.
Mr. Pappas? Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Ken,
Yes.
this is Debbie Hucker. I just got to make a correction. What is going to happen is we are going to put the appropriation budget amounts back in Public Works. At the end of the year, we are going to put them into TIFs, switch them into TIFs. So that'll affect our final budget. So that they're in there, that will probably be in there twice. In 04 and in 15, 14 in our TIF, but we won't do the actual transfer until the end of the year. This is, we believe, for the auditors and for us to be able to project budgets before and later. We need those numbers in there and separated. So that's why we're just doing this, and then it will impact our permanent budget, but I just want to make sure this transfer won't be done until the end of the year.
No, thank you for clarifying that, Debbie.
Thank you.
I think the other item under my agenda are we have minutes for a couple of our meetings to be approved.
Okay, I move to approve the minutes for November 16th, 2020 and December 17th, 2020.
Oh, you gotta do them separately.
Okay. I move to approve the minutes for November 16th, 2020.
You have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Abstain.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Wait, now I move to approve the minutes for December 17th, 2020.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Margaret, any law director report?
Report.
Good. Call back to you, planning and zoning.
Thank you. Tonight, we have a recommendation for the Comprehensive Plan Steering Team. As you know, we are embarking on our 5-year update to the 2016 plan, so this will be our 2021 update. A major component of our comprehensive plan is our steering team. A steering team has representatives from different township committees, our partnering organizations, residents throughout the community, and they help guide the planning process. They also are voices out on the street to help gain public input and to spread the word that we're updating the plan and to gain input for that update. We did post an invitation to the township's website, our Facebook page, to gain additional interest, which we were successful. We also reached out to our township committees and some that have participated in our planning process in the past. So tonight I will read off a list of those who have graciously accepted to be on the committee. If they are appointed, they're interested in volunteering. So if you will bear with me, I do want to acknowledge what organization or where they are from and their names. And then there is a resolution or a motion for your consideration. You'll also see them. And bear with me on the names. I hope I do pronunciation correctly. So Mr. Dan Barlow, who's a township resident, Julie Bissinger, who is on our Economic Development Committee, Jeff Bruderman, who is a township resident, Erica and Mike Carducci, who are township residents, Andy Collins, who will represent Great Parks of Hamilton County, Aaron Cox, who is a township resident and a leader in the urban farm, Lisa Daly, who is a Beachmont business owner, the Hopper House. Ron Edgerton, who's the chair of our Green Space Committee. Turpin Fisher, who obviously is a large farmer and a large property owner in the Little Miami riverfront area. Brian Gay, who's a member of our Transportation Advisory Committee. Nick Gressel, who's representing the Anderson Township Historical Society. Annie Horn, a township resident. Ken James, who is representing Mercy Health. Wade Johnston, representing Tri-State Trails. Lauren and the Mount Washington Community Council. Lauren Jordan, who's a township resident. Catherine Kielgers, who would represent the city of Cincinnati or send a representative in her place. Tim Kloppenberg, who is on our tree committee. Rob Kennard, who's a township resident and a former committee member. Mark Kabusik, representing the village of Newtown. Pinky Kokocious, who's representing the Transportation Advisory Committee. We have Tim Kramer, who's a township resident. Ken Kushner, representing the Anderson Park District. Blackmeyer, who's representing the Anderson Senior Center. Norman McDonald, who's a township resident. Andy Meyer would be representing OKI. Dean Niemeyer would be representing Hamilton County Regional Planning. Scott Prebles, the school district. Amy Richardson, Economic Development and the Board of Zoning Appeals. Karen Ringswald Egan, who's a township resident. Jeff Rosa, representing the Economic Development Committee. David Rudder, OKI, and the township resident. Paul Shekels, representing the Board of Zoning Appeals and Transportation Advisory Committee. Cody Swords, representing the Lions YMCA. Marcus Thompson, who's representing We Thrive. Brent Van Loo, who's a Beachmont Corridor business owner, Salon Concepts. Susan Wheatley, who's on our We Thrive committee. Dominic Wolford, who is on the Park Board. Brandon Woodard, who's on the Transportation Advisory Committee. And Tom Zenz, who is a business owner in the Ohio Riverfront area, the Grove Park Grill. So these would be recommended for appointment on the steering team. We have had some interest from high school students. And our approach with the high school students is we feel like we will probably have just an individual meeting with those and focused on their interest. So those are not on the steering team, but we do intend to have individual meetings with not only high school students, but possibly, middle or elementary to try to get some engagement from our students. So there is a motion for your consideration.
Thank you, Paul. I move to appoint all the to the 2021 Anderson Comprehensive Plan Update Series.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone? Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That's a great list. Very diverse representation from all over the township, backgrounds, political affiliations, all kinds of great stuff in that list. So well done, Paul. I know you and PJ and Sarah, I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but I know you guys spent a lot of time on it. So
thank you.
Thanks.
Was my name on that list, actually?
No, we actually excluded you on purpose.
Wait,
All right, Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Dan McElroy.
Yes, good evening. I'll be presenting a liquor license request from a Cabo Bravo LLC for the property located at 7625A Beachmont Avenue. It's for a D1, D2, D3 license for a new restaurant. This will be taking the spot that Izzy's used to occupy at that property. We have no problem with the request. Obviously, we're always happy to see new businesses come in.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a good addition. I move not to object to a new liquor license request from Cabo Bravo LLC located at 7625A Beachmont Avenue.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Girth?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant. Public Works, Eric, anything from your department other than a ton of salt?
And a pat on the back.
Yes.
We don't have anything tonight. Maybe we can set up a resolution for some sleep. That would be kind of nice.
Yeah, right. Well, I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. You guys do a heck of a job. And as terrible as social media is, I will say that by and large, all of the stuff I've seen is very complimentary. So well done to your team.
Yeah, bravo. And you guys are working very hard.
I know our department would like to thank you too, Eric. You guys did a great job.
Thanks. Got to give a shout out to Joe Barron and everybody at Hamilton County also. They've done a super job. So,
Yeah, no doubt.
as tired as we are, so it's all good. Thanks.
Thank you.
I know it has nothing to do with the fact that the Hamilton County engineer lives in Anderson. I know that's not the case. Yeah, fair. All right, Chief Martin, Fire and Rescue.
Good evening, everyone. The fire department tonight is seeking authorization for the sale of a surplus piece of equipment. It is our 2004 aerial, commonly called a Quint. It has served the department well. It is well past the planned life that we had for it, and it has reached its mechanical end of useful life for the department. And it's moving on to the, if approved, to the Great Oaks Institute of Technology to help train some future firefighters. We have a resolution before the board tonight for your consideration.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the sale of surplus equipment to Great Oaks Institute of Technology and Career Center, Cincinnati, Ohio, pursuant to a contract authorized by Section 505.101 of the revised code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Stone? Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thanks.
That is all the fire department has tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. You know, and I just want people to know this was a really good sale on our part, because I mean, it couldn't even be fixed, but they're using it. They don't have to drive it very far, and they're using it for training. So this turned out to be a great deal for us. So thank you.
Yeah, this is definitely a win-win for both organizations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Thanks, Chief. Vicki, back to you, I think.
Yes, Ms. Parker is on the line. She has the first item under administration.
Suzanne, are you out there?
Okay, well, if she is having some difficulty connecting there, I will go ahead and present for her. We have been with OTARMA, Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority, for our property and casualty insurance for quite some time. Suzanne reviews this insurance annually. She has continued to look for options for us, and her recommendation this year is that we renew our property and casualty with OTARMA. It would begin on February 23rd. Our annual premium would increase slightly by $7,377 from last year's because of an increase in the overall township's property value. As we have done, as OTARMA has done in the past, though, they distribute excess reserve funds back to members in March. So our portion of the distribution that will be returned to us is approximately $11,000. So at this point, there is a motion before you that would authorize our renewal with Otarma.
I move to authorize the renewal of the township's property and casualty insurance coverage with Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority for the 2021 policy year.
Second.
Mr. Pappas? Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item that we have is an information item for the board and for the fiscal office. The Ohio Revised Code required that we provide an inventory of our equipment and supplies, our material, machinery, tools to the county engineer for many, many decades. That statute was changed recently, which now requires that we provide an inventory of those items to the fiscal officer to be maintained in the fiscal office. Ms. Parker and Ms. Moorfield provide an annual inventory to Otarma for our insurance purposes. It lists everything from our buildings, our fire apparatus, our sheriff's cruisers, snowplow trucks, to streetlights that the township has installed, to benches outside. Virtually everything of value is listed in this, I believe it's a 60-page document. So Ms. Moorfield is going to provide a copy of that to the fiscal office so that you can retain that for the audit purposes. We will do that annually, so there is no board action required. I just wanted to make sure you were aware we were complying with that section of the code. We do not have any items arising from exec session discussions. That's all staff has to present this evening unless the board has any questions for us.
Dee, Andrew, Ken, anything else?
No, thank you.
Ken, can you move closer to the screen so we can hear you?
Where's Andrew?
I was going to comment on that, but I thought I'd be nice. Thank you, Josh.
I'm here to help. All right, with that, our next meeting, which may or may not be virtual, is March 18th, 5 o'clock for exec, 5:30 public forum. Anything else? I don't think so, so I would move to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Nice meeting.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.